You are listening to the Unsoberly Sober Show. I'm your host, Magnify Maggie. This podcast will turn your perception of going sober upside down. We're going to be working from the inside out to get you that dream life. So make sure you stick around for the end of the episode where I'm going to walk you through our weekly positive pursuit exercise to begin rewiring that beautiful mind, baby. Hello and welcome back, my free and powerful friend. How the heck are you as we are almost done with Sober October? How are you doing as we're almost entering November? Maybe it's no alcohol November for you. Maybe you didn't do Sober October, but you're thinking about no alcohol November. Or maybe you tried Sober October and it was and it did okay, but you can't wait for November 1 to have that drink. Anyway, whatever the case, I want to talk today about the pros and cons of these dry challenge months like Sober October, no alcohol November, dry January, dry July. And I want to shift some perspectives for you so that whatever the case is, you maybe feel empowered to give it a try or extend your try with a different strategy. So I'm going to open up today's episode by kind of giving you an idea of how dry months in my past went and what changed the game for me ultimately come dry January 2020. So, I had done the things. I had tried the dry Julys. I very rarely ever tried Sober October because I wanted to be able to drink for Halloween. That was like my favorite holiday. So, I do all of them except for Sober October. And what I found was what I was doing was trying to take a month off of alcohol in order to prove that I didn't have a problem. And then come the first of the following month, it was like snap my fingers right back into my old identity, right back into my old habits. Sometimes even worse, sometimes drinking even more heavily because I had quote unquote restricted myself for 30 days, 31 days. So I was YOLOing my pants off. So my strategy, I don't think is that much different than most people's back in the day. 3 to 4 weeks without alcohol. That to me back in the day seemed like forever. And if I could make it through 3 to 4 weeks without alcohol, then I must not have any issues, right? That was my entire thought process. And so what I was doing with those sober months was I was literally just existing, minusing alcohol from the equation as far as my behavior and what I took part in. But I was not doing anything to change my beliefs around alcohol. I was not doing anything to change my beliefs about myself. I wasn't doing really any inner work. In fact, the only thing that I was doing was manipulating an external factor, right? I was removing the alcohol from my habit slate, but I was constantly thinking about it and romanticizing about it and wishing that I had it and counting down to when I could have it again. So all in all, did that really do anything good for me? Not the majority. But then, dry January of 2020 came around. And this was right on the heels of some really embarrassing times in my life. Not even the most embarrassing, but just like the straw that broke the camel's back. 2019, I had a string of just unfortunate events, and not like they happened to me. I happened to them, so to say, as far as stepping down from Hooters because I basically lost all my credibility because of my drinking. I got a new job, but then at that new job's holiday party, December of 2019, I made an absolute buffoon of myself. 3 large men, including my husband and the CEO of my new job, had to carry me down a flight of stairs and put me in my Uber. So just like a bunch of debauchery in 2019 led me to enough discomfort to try dry January without necessarily counting down until February 1st. Now, I mentioned in my last episode that I did end up having a quote unquote slip up during dry January because I was immersed in Quit Lit. I was constantly thinking about alcohol. Even though I wasn't necessarily counting down, I was saying, okay, I want to figure out like, what does it mean to live without alcohol? What do people do? And I was kind of racking my brain, but I always just kept coming back to alcohol. But in that dry-ish month, where I ended up having drinks, I think in the 3rd week of January, and then I was dry on the 4th week, I had a lot of aha moments of like, I enjoy working out without a hangover. I enjoy going to the gym. It's not as much of a drag. It's not as hard or dreadful if I'm not hungover, and I actually feel energized. So that's cool. I really like following a nutrition plan and doing some research around that. So I started to get like my teeth sunk into some new things to think about and ways to spend my time. I never did that before. In other sober months, I was literally living my same exact life, but just replacing what I had in my hand. Meaning I was still going to the bar and I was sitting there watching people drink, thinking, that must just be so fun. I can't wait till the next time I can come out and actually drink with them. I was still hanging out with the same people, talking about the same things. I wasn't really changing anything about my social life, who I hung out with. In those times, I was just minusing alcohol from the equation, but still doing the same exact things. And when you're doing the same exact things that you would with alcohol, without alcohol, you miss it. And so you can't wait to get back to that. But wouldn't it make sense that if you go to a bar and you're watching a bunch of people drink, that being the activity, that you wouldn't have fun doing that without alcohol? Like going to a drinking activity, not drinking, it makes sense that you wouldn't really be interested in it. In fact, I think alcohol is what helps makes those things interesting, right? So I was really doing the same things in those previous dry months as I was doing when I was drinking, just not letting myself have any of the quote unquote fun or partake in the activities. Dry January 2020, I stepped away from those activities. And I said, well, if I'm not going to drink, what's the purpose of being at a bar? I know it could be to see these people and to connect with these people, but maybe I need to see if these people would want to connect with me in any other facet of life other than at a bar drinking. Do these people like me, or do they just like drinking? And I am a co-star to their show. So I started to, I wouldn't say isolate, but I took time away. I started to kind of unplug from the world. The 3rd week of January that I did drink, it's because I re-immersed myself in that atmosphere, that environment of alcohol-infused activities. And all in all, I actually did pretty well. I didn't black out. I remember actually being very proud of myself. I was like, I didn't black out. I didn't embarrass myself. I was able to get up the next morning, although I had a hangover from hell that I remember was like, I do not want to do this to myself anymore. I had that hangover from hell, but then that experience kind of bolstered me back up to say, you know what, 4th week of dry January, I'm going to do it to it. So then I entered February and I'm like, I'm going to be a moderate drinker. I didn't go right out of the gates February 1st drinking. I was like, well, if it's a special occasion, I will. And then that was the first year that the Mahomes Chiefs empire won the Super Bowl in a long time. That was second week of February, maybe first week of February. It wasn't February 1st. I had some drinks that day. And then February 15th, it was interesting. Rob just asked me, like, what was the last straw, I guess, the last time that crazy party girl Maggie came out. That was it, February 15th. I was like, I'm fixed. I took time off. And then I even reintroduced it, but I've only drank once in February. So I am perfectly in control of my alcohol consumption. Well, I went to a wedding and embarrassed the shit out of myself and my husband, yelled at him, called him a pussy in the middle of historical downtown Savannah because he didn't want to go to the after party and he knew I was too drunk and he was like, no, you need to go home. Like, we need to get in this Uber. And it was just like, ugh, I don't want to be here anymore. I woke up February 16th, 2 p.m., bright-eyed, bushy-tailed in the afternoon. And I didn't want to have to apologize anymore. I didn't want to have to sit there for another lecture of things that I didn't remember doing. And I was just like, you know what? If I just decide to not drink until I don't have this obsession over it, then maybe that's the cure. Maybe I don't say I'm going sober forever, but I do it long enough to where I don't want it, where I don't see it as valuable in my life. Because right now, obviously, there's something about me that thinks that it's really valuable to get toe up from the flow up. And I don't want that anymore. And so all of these little ripple effects, although my dry January wasn't perfect and it wasn't completely dry, and the next month was actually one of my greatest pitfalls, all of these things helped me learn how to think differently February 16th on. And definitely just the breadth of it was really March 2020, like facing quarantine, all of this free time. What am I going to do with my free time? I'm going to learn about myself. I'm going to learn about fitness and nutrition and my identity and how to become a personal trainer and a nutrition coach and a behavior change specialist. It was just like putting overdrive on personal development, right? Rob said right before we hit record, he said, you've got to become the new you, shedding. Okay, say what you said about the snake.
Like a snake shedding its skin.
Yeah.
So you can become the new version of you.
The new version of you. And I think that's what I was going through. And I mentioned to him, it's kind of like you have to birth this new version of yourself. Labor doesn't feel good. How long does it take for the gestational period? 9 months. And then you got to go through labor. Like, that's hard to birth a new version of you or shed your old skin and become a new version of you. But that can happen even if your Sober October wasn't perfect. The things that you learned, you can take into November and December and January, maybe even do like extend it out. No alcohol November, dry December, dry January, things of that nature. But it doesn't have to look perfect for you to have these lessons of how to create the new version of yourself. I think that the big problem with the ideology of 30 days off, Sober October, dry July, dry January, it's this premise of time heals all. But time doesn't heal all. It's what you do with that time. In the months where I did not succeed in creating any positive ripple effect in my sober identity, sober-ish even identity, I was just letting time pass without changing anything else about myself. I was actually spending the entire time romancing the drink, longing for it, counting down, just letting time pass. And here I am existing. Whereas the thing that changed my trajectory was, okay, this time is going to pass. What will I do with it? What will I do with all of this free time? Quarantine 2020. When most people were sharing screenshots of them having beer mimosas on their Zoom meetings or taking sneaky shots with, the Zoom on, like when most people were sharing that, I used that as fuel to say, I'm going to be different than them. I'm going to be different than the previous version of myself. Thank God, because I don't know if Party Girl Maggie would have come out of quarantine alive or without some substantial health issues. Perhaps even like multiple alcohol poisonings. That was just too much time on my hands. I'm so incredibly thankful that all of those embarrassing events of 2019 into February of 2020 happened when they did, because if they hadn't, I would have been the one cheersing at 7 a.m. Like I would have just been drunk the entire timeline of quarantine. But I chose to do something different with that time. So as we're nearing the end of Sober October, I want to plant these seeds for you. If you didn't spend your Sober October challenging your beliefs about alcohol, challenging your beliefs about yourself, creating new routines, creating new habits, if you did not do that and you just let time pass, that's okay. This is your challenge to now say, well, how am I going to spend my November? Am I going to reintroduce alcohol? If I do so, am I going to do it with a strategy, or am I just going to let it flow the way I was before the beginning of October? I think it's really important to recognize boundary setting. If you're going to reintroduce it after 30 days, 30 days is not a lot of time. It's not a lot of time to create a new identity that has, I don't want to say a disdain for alcohol, but just sees alcohol as like unsavory, unsatisfactory. It takes more than 30 days for that. And if you are deciding, hey, I'm going to allow alcohol in my life in November, remember that you need to have boundaries. This is where a lot of people go awry with moderation, is again, they're just trying to manipulate the external, but they need to have personal boundaries. Like, I don't drink every single time I go to a restaurant. I don't have a cocktail just because there's cocktails. I don't have a cocktail just because there's a bar in this restaurant. I don't have a drink just because it's 5 o'clock. I don't think that's important. I don't think that that's a good way to spend my life. It comes from this intrinsic thought process and perspective, rather than I'm trying to moderate alcohol. So although I want it, I'm not going to drink it this weekend, and I'm not going to drink it tonight. Because then you're coming from a perspective of like, I want it, but I'm going to try not to drink it. You have to have this intrinsic belief that it's not necessary to have every single social engagement. It's not necessary to have every single day, every time you perceive stress. That takes more than 30 days usually. So I would actually invite you to be open-minded to extending out into no alcohol November. Take an extended alcohol vacation. A lot happens in the first 30 days as far as your body rebalancing, healing internally, your sleep improving. Like, yes, this all happens as time passes. That's great. But you can up the ante. And if you feel good October 25th, October 30th, and 31st from being alcohol free for just 30, 31 days, think about how you're going to feel at 60 days and then 90 days. And then from that perspective, you will be able to use positive discernment more accurately for, is this opportunity, event, experience going to be better with alcohol? Or is it actually going to take away from my long-term goals, this moment and being present with these people, these memories, especially as we have holidays coming up? You guys know I've mentioned this in the past, how many holidays I absolutely fucking ruined because I was just like, literally the holiday event was drinking for me. It had nothing to do with my family. I could have been drinking with like homeless strangers and I would have had as much fun as I did with my family. Like I ruined holidays, because of alcohol. And as we're getting into that holiday season, I don't want you to just be like, yeah, I did Sober October. Now I'm going back to it. And then, maybe I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but this might be your last year with one of your family members sitting around the Thanksgiving dinner table or Christmas table. I do not want to put that out in the universe, but it's a real thing. Life is fragile. You don't know. So why not extend out to no alcohol November, dry December, so that you can have holidays where you actually remember things. You're present with the conversation. You're also excited and proud of yourself for experiencing these things through like brand new eyes of like, I'm here with clarity and without brain fog and without this obsession of where the next drink is. You actually feel I wish there was a better word for presence, like being present with it. It's chilling. It is grounding. It's an epiphany in and of itself of like, wow, this has been here this whole time, but I have been consumed by alcohol thoughts rather than actually enjoying this. I think that's probably one of the biggest benefits that you could get out of an alcohol vacation this time of year is the quality memories, family time that you get. Also, how stressful can the holiday season be? Very stressful. And typically alcohol is what we lean on. But if you go through the holiday season and you challenge those stressful perceptions and you do it with natural emotional regulation, then there is no mountain too big for you to climb without alcohol. Like if you train in chaos, you're going to be stronger than when you train in peace. If you can extend out your alcohol vacation to November and December, then come January, it's going to be so fucking easy. Like, you're just going to be like, oh, there's no party. There's no, like, this is literally the time to hit the gym, work on my New Year's resolution. Like, you are going to be off to the races, feeling so good. And anything that is or could have in the past been perceived as a challenge, you're going to be like, hey, law of relativity, relative to all of the stressors of the holiday season, this thing on January 3rd is actually pretty easy to handle. And now I know how to emotionally regulate and I know how to re-perceive stress and see that this is going to pass. This is all going to blow over and I can see the solution instead of just being consumed by the problem. But what I want you to really understand is that no matter what happened in Sober October, 30 days is not that long. If you don't feel like a brand new person, that's okay because it takes a lot longer to shed your skin. It takes a lot longer to birth your new identity than 30 days. And I know this is going to maybe sound harsh or rude, but if you're wondering if you have a problem with alcohol, and you're negotiating and justifying and bargaining, well, I don't really have a problem with alcohol, but like, look at this, but I wonder if I have a problem with alcohol. If you are in that boat, but you're also looking at a calendar and you're looking at a 30-day block and you say, damn, that would be hard to go without alcohol. You kind of answered your question of if you have a problem with alcohol. If you can't easily go for 30 days without alcohol, you need to take a break from alcohol. If you can't envision fun, fulfillment, worthwhile goals, happiness, peace, joy without alcohol for 30 days, you are especially worthy of taking a 30-day break. Because this is really sad, but I do this audit a lot in the past with sober experimenters, with Magnify clients. We do this audit, and depending on the client's age, of course, it all varies. But most people who are drinking regularly now have not taken more than a week off from drinking since they were 21. If you are 35 now, those habits are just ingrained. If you're 45, 55, those habits are ingrained. So it's going to seem like a really long time, a week without alcohol, a month without alcohol. But when you look, relatively speaking, when you look at your history with it, when was the last time you gave your body that break? When was the last time you looked at life through the eyes of a child? This is really funny. I think back to like when I was a kid. Rob, what do you think about this? Like when you were a kid, like being drunk wasn't a thing. We just had fun, right? Like we just had our imagination. We like went to each other's houses. We like hung out. We made games up and like it was fun, right?
Yeah, it was fun. And I think getting sober, you kind of get back to that childlike state.
Yeah.
Which was, somebody who got sober in the 30s, you're like, oh, this is who I was and am.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild.
It's very wild.
Because it's almost like, oh, this is how it like feels to be like happy in a pure sense.
Pure. I think that's a really good word. That just gave me chills.
Yeah.
Because there were times where you could have asked me when I was drinking, I'd be like, yeah, I'm happy. But it wasn't a pure joy. It was kind of like a dirty happy. It's like, yeah, I'm happy now, but I had to do something that I'm not necessarily proud of to be happy. And I know it's short-lived and I know it's going to be followed by depression. Whereas like now, here we are, like feeling that pure happiness, joy, jovial, youthful, joking, like just attitude overall. It's like, this is available to me all the time.
And the happiness isn't diluted. It's like, it's just what it is.
Yeah.
So
wholesome.
Yes. Like it's kind of wholesome in a weird way, because that's when, after sobriety, and this took me a long time too, to kind of realize, oh, this is like, I am an introvert. That's why I don't really have to go to these social places and mask it with alcohol. It's okay to be alone and just be like happy doing whatever you're doing.
That was one of my big perspective shifts that happened in a little bit in dry January, but definitely in March, of like, just because my drunk alter ego, my drunk identity thought that you're lame for sitting home on Friday night doesn't make it true. Me being more of an introvert than an extrovert than I thought, it makes sense that I needed alcohol to look forward to all of those social battery events, right? Now, I think it's so peaceful, self-care at its best to be like, hey, Friday night, I've got a good book. I'm having a bubble bath. Maybe I'll go for a walk. But like in my mindset back then, I was like, that's lame. You're boring. And I think you need time away to experience that childlike energy, that fun, that pure, wholesome, innocent excitement and joy to come to terms with these things about yourself instead of trying to hide them or mask them or change them. You come to terms with them. You have self-acceptance from psychocybernetics, the last S of success type personality. You have self-acceptance. I'm an introvert. I enjoy reading these nerd books. Like, is that okay? Something I thoroughly enjoy doing is watching historical dramas on Netflix. If I'm going to Netflix and chill, I'm going to watch something about the czars of Russia or like the Revolutionary War, because that's wild to me that was literally a real thing in time, not just characters on like in a history book. Like those were real people. So like, I don't have any shame around that stuff anymore. I am authentically interested in those things. And so doing them feels really fun. And it doesn't cast any kind of shame on myself for like, oh, you should be out hanging out with people so they don't forget about you, so they don't talk shit about you. Like all of that's out of fear of being yourself. Whereas when you start to do the things you love, no matter what other people think about it, it's when you start to have fun and accept yourself. And you're like, hey, isn't it silly that I would have spent my time going out and spending money on something that was going to make me sick and make me act a fool and wake up sick as fuck tomorrow, self-induced sickness, when I could be doing this that I actually really, really enjoy? So that's what I think the extended alcohol vacation allows for. It allows you to get to know yourself. Because I'm going to say this loud and clear. If you're drinking regularly, if you consider yourself or even question if you're a problematic drinker, you're drinking frequently, intensely, you don't know who you are. That sounds maybe offensive, but coming from somebody who knows for herself, sees it with her clients, it takes time to get to know who you are when we've been spending so much time in our life trying to be somebody for everybody else to like. And that's one of the deep causes for alcohol use disorder, is trying to impress other people, external validation, all of these things. So I want to encourage you to understand that this time away, the time alone is not going to heal everything. It's what you do with that time. And 30 days is not a lot of time. So I invite you, I challenge you to perhaps extend it take a gander at what a no alcohol November would look like, what a dry December would look like. Start to imagine not just the fear ideas, but like the good ideas. How could it look? How would you want it to look? What kind of exciting things could you be focused on and learning? Imagine if you did no alcohol November and dry December, and before you even hit your New Year's resolution time of January 1st, you'd already lost like 8 to 10 pounds because you quit drinking and you got in the gym and you were getting your steps and water every day. Wouldn't that be pretty darn cool if you lost weight and got healthier during the holidays instead of the other direction, which is typically what happens. And then January 1st feels really rough because now we're digging ourselves further out of a hole. Imagine that. Like, imagine the good and challenge yourself. Now, for the people that they've made up their mind. They're like, I'm going to reintroduce alcohol. I had 31 days. I'm good. Let's do it. I want to encourage you to shake off the let's do it energy and say, I'm going to do it in a smart, and I almost want to say like professional manner. But what I mean by that is like, think about somebody who's very classy and successful and they've got goals. And, I always mention CEOs, but like, that's what I see in my mind. Would a CEO go out and have a free for all? Or would they maybe have one serving of alcohol and pace themselves and not even really be that intrigued by it, but actually more intrigued in the conversation and the networking and the being present in the moment and making memories? Would the CEO have a cocktail every single place that they went that had alcohol or a bar? Would the CEO make these decisions of self-sabotage if they included alcohol in their life? No, they would be very smart about it. They would manage this habit very well. Well, you are the CEO of your life. You are the CEO of your habits. You need to manage your habits and you need to draw healthy boundaries. So make sure that if you are going to drink, if you're going to reintroduce alcohol, maybe look at the calendar for November and say, this is a special occasion where I'll let myself have 1 or 2 servings. This is a special occasion where I'm going to enjoy one and I'm going to set up a fun event for the next day to keep me focused forward so that I don't lose myself in the drinks. I've got this thing that's going to happen on the following day. That's really exciting. Draw these boundaries so that you start to manage the habit. I know people, one person comes to mind specifically who did dry July. And this person was telling me this past year, like just a few months ago, this person was telling me like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. My sleep is so much better. I'm so much more present with my family. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking about extending it out. And I loved that. But unfortunately, and I think hopefully they had some ripple effects in their life where maybe it taught them some things. I saw them in August and it was worse than before dry July. There was much more party energy. There was, again, like, I've done the 30 days and now I'm back. And I just encourage you, don't let it go back to the old way. If you're going to reintroduce it, do it smart. Maybe do it with my accountability in your pocket. I'm here for you. No shame if you're like, hey, I did sober October and I want to reintroduce alcohol in November and December, and I just need to make sure that I am really managing it wisely and also working on other goals, then let me know. We've got the application link for one-on-one coaching in the description of this episode. We also have the link. The first link in the link list is the community and course where you invest $200 a month, $50 a week. You're probably already spending that on alcohol. Invest $200 a month, monthly membership. Gets you access to me, access to our weekly trainings that are all catered to the members. So they submit forms. What are they going through? What questions do they have? Would they like a hot seat coaching session in the weekly training? All of that. They get access to the course modules, which are mindset video trainings, expanding on things like those universal laws, authenticity over attachment, paradigm shifting, progressive overload in fitness, nutrition, making money is an entire course module there. You gotta love money is module 6. So invest in that for you so that if you're going to reintroduce it, then you have somebody that has your back and that has had these solutions and these strategies tested and proven to work. get involved. Those links are available. I'm here for you. Let me know, did you complete or are you almost? I know it's not completely over, but Sober October is coming to a close. Did you complete it? Are you completing it? Are you giving yourself a permission slip for Halloween night? Are you giving yourself a permission slip for the Halloween party? Be smart, work out beforehand, listen to some positive things so that you don't go overboard. As far as November goes, let me know if you need any help strategizing. If you're going into no alcohol November or you're reintroducing it, I want to help you. So check out those links in the description. Make sure you also subscribe so that you have these free lessons to access at any time. I'm so thankful for you. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you guys for also giving me feedback via email and Instagram, things that you guys have gleaned from these episodes, these heart-to-hearts together. Your feedback is why I keep showing up, because I love to know the ripple effect that these lessons are creating in your life. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I love each and every one of you. And just go on with your bad self. Between now and next week, remember, think different in order to drink different, think different to eat different, move different, live different. It all goes down in the mind. I'm here for you. Reach out if you need any help. You are not alone, my friend. All the love. Signing out, Magnify Maggie. It means the entire world to me that you have been here with me, letting me share my experiences and hopefully helping open your eyes to a bright, beautiful life ahead of you as well. So if you are loving this show, please, please, please subscribe, like, comment, and especially share this with somebody that might be in need. Please help get the word out. Word of mouth is so important. And I know that you're somebody special who can help me in this mission for thinking differently in order to drink differently or never again. Make sure you reach out if you have any questions you want discussed on the podcast. I'm here for it. So I'll talk to you soon. Signing out, Magnify Maggie.